Hi, it's the Ahiflower channel here. Regenerative Omegas for a Regenerative Planet. I'm Andrew Hebard, and I'm here with Joe Dugdale of Craythorne Farms in North Yorkshire in the UK. Welcome, Joe.
Morning, Andrew.
Thanks so much for joining us today. You are our first farmer guest, and more importantly, you're our first Ahiflower grower. So thanks so much for joining us today. Really keen to hear what your thoughts are and learnings are about Ahiflower. So Ahiflower is a crop that you've been growing for us. Is this your first year or second year?
So we've done one harvest and we have our second crop in the ground.
Excellent. And so tell us how you found it and why grow Ahiflower. You've got a lot of different choices on that in God's country up there in Yorkshire.
So we've been on the lookout for a break crop that fits into our 6-year rotation and helps us avoid growing 2 cereal crops in a row. And the reason I want to avoid growing 2 cereal crops in a row is because I think the yellow straw crops alter the balance of carbon to nitrogen in the soil. And too many yellow straw crops add too much carbon. And so I want to find break crops that allow us a break from those yellow straw crops. And there's always barriers, too many brassicas, disease buildups. Beans are a great break, but not particularly profitable. And so I went to one of Simon Meakin's Ahiflower open days and very quickly became convinced that it was something we ought to be trying.
That's great. So, and do you think, so you had your first harvest in earlier this year, 2022, and you've planted a crop now. One of the questions we get asked a lot about from our customers is, how scalable is Ahiflower? If you go from, a few thousand hectares today to 10,000 to 100,000, that sort of thing, if the demand increases to that extent, which we think it will, as it starts to, replace fish oil as a sustainable omega source, do you think that's realistic that new growers like yourself are going to look at it and fit it into their rotations?
Yeah, I do, because on top of getting away from too many yellow straw crops, it ticks many other boxes for us as well, particularly where we are geographically. So we are able to harvest Ahiflower before we used to even think about getting the combine dusted off, ready for harvest, which up north is absolutely essential to allow us good entry into cereal crops. With regenerative agriculture, or certainly non-inversion tillage, what we're finding is that certain grass weeds are getting more and more testing. And again, growing a non-cereal crop allows us to improve our brome control, particularly. Brome is our major grassweed problem up here. And to give any blackgrass areas another good knock before going back into a cereal.
Right.
The other thing we've really liked about it, and again going back to the early harvest, is that it allows us to grow what we call a catch crop, and that is really a cover crop, so a mix of I think we used 6 species this last time. That we put in between harvesting the Ahiflower and planting the wheat. And again, I think because our harvests are that bit later up north, we find that cover crops really do not perform well. They don't really start growing particularly quickly. And then we have the problem of terminating the cover crop and planting a spring crop, which often are not particularly profitable in the spring. I think we grow more biomass in that 10-week or 8-week period between Ahiflower harvest and wheat drilling than we would through the 6-7 month period of a cover crop.
That is fascinating. I never knew that. I knew that some people obviously followed their crop with catch crops or cover crops, but I didn't know that you were planting in such a sort of tight window from growing, harvesting Ahiflower, planting a crop, and then getting an autumn sown wheat crop in. Now that to my mind is the perfect model for regenerative agriculture. And you mentioned regenerative agriculture, and you're doing that to have ground cover, I guess, habitat also for pollinators. What's your sort of the motivation behind putting that in? Because that's not an easy process to do, actually, to establish a new crop and then till it in.
Yeah, so those things you mentioned, pollinators, in that period between sort of early July and mid-September, there is a huge amount of insect activity, and we want to provide them a habitat to flourish. Selfishly, that's not just because we like seeing insects, because we want to encourage beneficials on the farm. We haven't used insecticides here for 6 years now. And fascinatingly, the wheat harvest after a catch crop, we find the wheat, when we bring it into the grain dryer, is alive with insects. And that's a year after we've grown that catch crop.
Right. And insects that are detrimental to the wheat crop?
No. Yeah. Beneficial.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is obviously, again, going back to the time of year that it is, there are a huge amount of sunlight hours between the beginning of July and mid-September. And that's really when we want to be harvesting the sun's energy through photosynthesis. So we want to get a catch crop in the ground, growing quickly and harvesting energy and putting that back into the ground for the following cash crop.
This is fascinating, Joe. This is I'm so glad you're sharing this with us, because this is an aspect of agriculture that not a lot of people see. And our model is soil to oil, doing that whole supply chain regeneratively. And you and our grower base are the first link in that supply chain. And to know that you are so focused on good agricultural stewardship, regenerative practices, and really acting as you're the custodian of our environment, really, as it comes to, we're so aware now of the sensitivity of climate and how the climate is changing and that sort of thing. Those practices must be having quite a big effect, not just at a sort of planetary level, but also on your own farm and your own business, which seems like a real win-win situation.
Yeah. It doesn't happen overnight. We certainly have challenging moments. I think it takes a long time for the soil to adapt from a heavy tillage regime to a no-till or reduced till regime. But certainly using plants to help you with adapting is the right way to do it. Bare soil, for us, we try and avoid as much as we possibly can.
And you said, in our chat earlier, you were saying that you integrate livestock into your rotation as well. You're a dairy producer as well.
Yeah. So we're on clay soils here. So integrating livestock comes with its challenges, but we feel that we use a lot of imported manures to help try and feed the soil biota as much as we can. But we think nothing beats actually hooves on the ground. It's difficult to get the livestock around the entire arable enterprise, but what we find is the crops that we grow after livestock being in there really require very little artificial input.
Right. Oh, great! What a great model. So before we started our chat here, we were mentioning about you're located in North Yorkshire, and for many of our viewers in the UK, I'm guessing something like 20 miles south and east of you is the fishing port of Whitby. Would that be about right?
Yeah, that's about right.
So as we think about regenerative health, regenerative agriculture, Whitby was recognized as one of the global leading fisheries as much as a century ago for the North Sea herring population. And, that now basically, I don't know if there are many herrings living in the North Sea now. And a large part of that sort of reduction in population was as a result of the extraction industry taking fish out of the ocean for omega-3 oils. So here's a regenerative grower growing a crop in close proximity to what was one of the leading fish oil industries to replace the fish oil industry. I think it's a really, really great model, and not to just be thinking about a regenerative ingredient, regenerative health, but to do that with regenerative agriculture is a tremendous story.
And that was another thing that attracted us to growing Ahiflower was, here you guys are pioneering alternatives to an industry that I'm afraid, like many things, humans have abused and overused. And I think it's probably for you gone from being an idea to actually something that really can make a difference now.
Yeah, it's what motivates us. We're seeing really good benefit, health and wellness benefits across many spectrum, genuine improvements. We're seeing people that are pleased to take something that they know is good for their health that doesn't come from the oceans or isn't a depletive ingredient and doesn't taste awful. And also we're seeing that although it's a small area in global agriculture, to partner with growers like yourself that are so focused on really good husbandry practices, stewardship practices, it just makes us feel really proud to be part of this industry. So really, really appreciate you supporting us, Joe, and growing Ahiflower for us. And I hope your second harvest is better than your first one, and your third one is better than your second one, and that we see continuous improvement by working together in the next few years.
Well, I've been badgering your colleague to increase our area, so I'm hoping I'll be able to do that.
Excellent. Well, Simon is the guy, and he's the right guy to badger. So all the time that our demand goes up, then rest assured we'll be working with you to increase production.
Brilliant. And thank you for having me on.
Okay, well, thanks so much, Joe.